And specifically, there were some lawns that were littered with some little tiny leaflets distributing messages of hate. And, you know, we don't want to give oxygen to these things. We don't want to give a bully a platform, and we don't want to share those messages because they're not worth repeating. They're ignorant and they're hateful. But instead, we do want to recognize that as a community, there's always more that we can be doing to bring ourselves together, right? And I think at this time, it is a moment of reflection and a time for us to ask ourselves as a community, what can we do to help one another? What can we do to reach the communities within our community and make sure that their voices are heard, make sure that they feel welcomed, and make sure that they have a platform? It's also a time for us to look introspectively and ask ourselves, what can I do as an individual? Can I perhaps reach out to a neighbor that I've never reached out to before and say, hey, I'm here? Can I teach my children and my grandchildren about how insidious hate can be and how hatred just begets more hatred? It's time to reach out to others. It's time to look at perhaps education, reading a book, to understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of hateful words and hateful conduct. But most of all, as your mayor and as your town council, we want you to know that each and every one of you, as a resident, or if you're here as a business owner, that you have a voice and that you are valued in this community, and that we are here to serve you and to give you the platform that you need so that together our community can continue to be strong, our community can continue to be inclusive and sustainable, because that's who Rocky Hill is. That is who we are. I also want to say, finally, that any type of activity that's out there that seeks to intimidate or to inflame people's emotions in our community is never going to be tolerated. And I think all of you know that. I think this administration has shown its commitment to making sure that we operate as one, right? And I want you to know that this administration will remain focused on ensuring that we are promoting an inclusive, a healthy, and an environment where everybody feels welcome, where nobody ever feels threatened or intimidated. And I want to thank all of the little groups and committees and grassroots and churches and everyone else who's out there who has shown compassion for what has happened and who is actually doing something, right? Who's holding an event, who's talking about what we could be doing. And I do know there are some things that are going to be happening in town. Tomorrow night, there is going to be an online community discussion that will focus on the do's and don'ts of responding to hate crime and how other towns have responded. You guys can find that on social media. Okay, and so I'm going to conclude with that, and we will continue with our meeting. Thank you. So we're going to move on to public comment, and this, oh, hold on, no, we're not. I can't read your writing. Representative Wood, are you here? I'm going to make a motion to bring up Representative Wood.
Second.
Okay, we'll amend the agenda to bring up Representative Wood. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, it says Wood.
I don't know what that
Must be really messy if you can't do that. Mayor, thank you for starting the meeting with those words that we all needed to hear at this moment in time. It's really important, and I look forward to hearing from everyone that's here from the public to speak, and also participating tomorrow night in any other forums that we have in the future. So thank you, everyone, for having me on this beautiful night. I know we could be out playing basketball or mowing our lawns, but we're here doing the good work of the people, so thank you. We're right in the middle of the legislative session. This is a long session. It starts in January and ends in June. And I'm just going to highlight a few of the bills that are kind of some of the hot topics this year and open it up to questions if you have anything. On the municipal side, we're really pushing for increased pilot to our town and supporting additional bonding dollars that we have been doing, some regarding the town green, bonding dollars for the Old Forge Bridge design, which would open up phase 2 of the town's industrial park, and anything I can do in addition with additional bonding dollars. I know that I've worked with many people in this room on other projects that we could be focused on. There has been concerns regarding a commercial property tax cap from communities like Rocky Hill and Weathersfield. It sounds great, right? We're going to cap commercial properties and residential properties, but how is that going to be funded? If it's funded through the state, will Rocky Hill be cut short? That is what the concerns are right now, and I hear those, and thank you for reaching out, and we'll continue to keep you abreast of those. There's been assessor bills. I know the mayor had testified last week. That is being converted into a study, so thank you for your testimony on that. There are some firefighter bills that have been put forward that I know our great team in Rocky Hill and Weathersfield have been supporting, some regarding some additional funds for the town to clean the PFAS off the equipment. There's a documentary that I'm happy to send around to people that what we think is protecting them is actually causing cancer, and giving the town's money to clean that equipment properly to make sure that PFAS is removed. So we're working on a bill for that, and also to keep the funding in place for the highway reimbursement. That was, I believe you came up, Mayor, and testified on behalf of that, but that is a $500 reimbursement for every service call on I-91 and other highways. That was cut under the governor's budget, and we are working hard to get that put back in. We recognized some of the winners of the fire department at the Capitol a couple weeks ago. The chief, deputy chief, mayor, and town manager were there, and thank you all for coming for that. We have a really great department. Housing. We are talking about a fair share housing bill. I was able to go to a forum at the Congregational Church on the fair share bill. It basically allows towns to come up with their own specialty zoning district and do things like tax incentives and others. We can do this now. I mean, the town of Rocky Hill can say, this is where we want to put housing. So we need to figure out, how this fair share bill works. And a lot of the questions I asked was, how is the town going to be compensated for that additional zoning work? So we will keep that discussion going. And I think it's fluid so that we can make sure that we're building affordable housing and we're doing it in a way that works for Rocky Hill. There's a bill that I'd like everyone on the town council to take a look at if you can. It's HB 6777, and it's a really creative, outside-the-box solution for adding additional affordable housing stock to the town of Rocky Hill. Right now we're at 5%. The goal is 10%. If we don't reach 10%, as many people know, the outside developers can use this 830G proposal and build anywhere. So how do we get to that 10%? And one way is to potentially take homes that senior citizens under a certain income level are currently living in and deed those as affordable. I think the bill is creative, but I'd really like everyone's feedback on it. CCM is looking at it now. It probably won't pass this year, but how does a small town like Rocky Hill get to that 10%? I would love your feedback on that. I'll move on to taxes. I think the most emails and calls I get are really related to taxes and the ferry. The ferry will be open in a few weeks. We still don't have a date yet, but the tax issue, the Social Security pension and annuity income tax for seniors. Right now, the threshold is $75,000 and under, but if you make $75,001, you do not benefit. We are removing the cliff in this year's bill, and then you're kind of penalized if you file jointly because the threshold is $100,000 and under. We've pushed really hard to get that moved to 150. It will not be moved to 150, but it will be moved up at some point. And again, we're getting rid of that cliff so that if you make $1 over, you wouldn't be able to participate in that. That is not supported by the governor. So the more people that I hear from, the more people that reach out to the governor's office and other people in the legislature would be really helpful. Additionally, we're looking at lowering the income tax rate. There's 7 income tax rates in the state as your income moves up. On the first rate, which is $10,000 and under, and on the second rate, $50,000 and under. It doesn't mean if you make over that, you wouldn't benefit, but the governor is looking at lowering the income tax rate on those first 2 tiers and expanding the earned income tax credit from 30.5% to 40%. This is for working people making under a certain threshold. And again, it puts more money into people's pockets out of your earnings. I want to highlight one bill that's probably really important to the town, which is HB 5003. This is an educational bill that will provide more funding to schools, students, and towns, just to really help kind of continue what that ARPA money did during COVID. Again, ways to help you offset property taxes and things that you have to pay for here. I wish our budgets lined up a little better. It's kind of backwards, but I'll do my best to keep you posted on that. And then I just want to give a shout out to Board of Ed member Jessica Lofredo, who put in a bill for seizure-safe schools, which is going to be rolled into a larger education bill, and that's just to make sure administrators and teachers know how to handle students that are having seizures. I continue to hold coffee hours and walks and talks and farm tours and whatever I can do to get in front of people. It is really important to hear from everyone in town. Believe it or not, you wouldn't realize how little comments I get on some of the things that you think would be really, important. Most of the emails and outreach I get, if it's not to help connect with services, it's really related to taxing. So if there's something really important to you, I do need to hear from you. There's some great environmental bills. We're doing the trash, discussions, and that is really focused on pulling more trash out of the supply now. And Rocky Hill, again, is taking a leadership position on this and jumping ahead of the state and saying we're going to pull the, organic waste out. I mean, the whole state is going to move in that direction. On one thing on safety, I want to just point out, I know everyone wants cameras everywhere, and it's been challenging in the state to get cameras put in place. This month, cameras are actually being installed in work zones by the DOT. So just for everyone out there, if you do speed through a construction zone, you will start to get a ticket. So just be aware, and that's for safety of workers. But that was a challenge just to get cameras installed in work zones. There's a pilot program that will be rolled out for Waterbury, and these are speed and traffic cameras. The bill needs to pass. I mean, right now it's not allowed to put cameras in, but I hear from people all the time, we wish we had more cameras and things to help, the police. I just want to say that it's been very slow, but I think we're moving in that direction to see more help, more technology in the area of cameras and crime. So there's also a police recruitment and retention bill that I've talked to our local PDs that they're very excited about, and hopefully will help recruit more people into that field. So that's it from me. There's thousands of bills. I just tried to highlight some of the stuff that's going on now, and I'm always available for questions or to talk with people offline.
Is there any possibility that lawmakers would be interested in helping us sync the budget time period between when we have to pass the municipal budget and when you guys, I mean, is there any appetite for allowing us to delay passing our budget until you guys make a decision?
I mean, I think it makes sense. So rather than, how it would work is we need to work through the summer and fall on getting something like that done. Right now, the process is the process, but, I think it would make sense because if we pass this bill, HB 5003, and it has a ton of education funding in an area where you've already designated something, you're kind of caught flat on your heels. So I would love to talk offline about that. It's not the first time I've heard it. I believe we talked about it maybe
Yeah, it comes up
3 or 4 years
annually,
ago.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should do a better job on that.
Yeah. And then is there any possibility with respect to the affordable housing of incentivizing the developers to do deed restricted properties? So I'm not talking about just about like that affordable component,
Yeah.
right? But like so when I talk to developers who may come and do some infill development on the Silestine and maybe do a couple retail shops on the bottom and maybe 3 or 4 apartments on top, I'm always saying, can you deed restrict one of those? I mean, it doesn't get us far, obviously, but is the state considering maybe doing something like that?
Yeah, I'd really encourage you to look at HB 6777 too, because that's, deed restricting for affordable for seniors.
Okay.
And yes, we're all ears on affordable. We're not building enough right now, and I'm sure everyone knows someone that, is going through a divorce or, took a different career path, and they're just looking for a lower costing place to live. And what we're building around the state are extremely expensive rentals, which are great for young professionals making, over $100,000 a year, but not for people that are just looking to maybe move close to their kids or downsize or something like that. So I'll just put this out there. I'll tell you what some other towns have done too. They've started an affordable housing committee or commission or task force. I want to support where affordable housing wants to go that's best suited for the town. To have someone propose 30 units on a half acre on wetlands, I think all of us were really concerned with that, direction. But maybe right across the street or next door or a block away, there's a spot that makes sense. How do we put that master plan into place? And then you guys have set the tone really well on if you want to come to Rocky Hill and do business, we can talk about tax incentives and things like that to get the projects off the ground. So I think that's what it's going to be. How can the state help with that sort of funding, to get the shovels in the ground?
Well, the good news is that affordable housing plan that we just passed has a requirement to form a committee. So I'm hoping that maybe after budget season, that's when we'll start focusing on that.
Great. And we have a senior and disabled housing on Willow Road. There's additional land there. So right now there's this push from the state to fund affordable housing. I've asked Susie to copy me on some of the emails to DOH. Like, will they help us build affordable housing there? If there's such a need and so much money there, I believe they have a couple extra acres where we could put 50 or 60 more units. As we all know, that those units have a wait list that is 3 to 5 years long, and it often closes because they just don't want people sitting around for 5 years waiting for a slot. So that type of housing is extremely needed. And if there's anything I could do to help with that, I'm happy to, because I think there's times right now where there's money. As we all know, there will be times if we go into a recession or inflation continues that there may not be access to these types of grants.
Okay, I'm going to stop. Anyone else?
I have a few questions, if I can.
You may.
Or if you guys have any?
You want to go down the row? Let's
Yeah,
go
we
down
can
the
go
row
down
so
the-
we'll keep track.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
Do you have any update on the early voting bill? What's the latest coming out of there?
So the latest is 10 days, and Rocky Hill has shared with me that it's about $5,300 a day. So that needs to be funded. I've also learned that the voting machines are inadequate. The parts aren't even available anymore. So the machines need to be upgraded, the early voting needs to be funded, and then there needs to be a delay just to shut down, a day or two between the early voting and then election day. So I know that the town, the clerks, the registrars of voters are all very active in participating in this.
So there is an attempt to have funding in the bill?
Yes, and the discussion now is how long the funding will be in place, because it's not, we don't want one-time funding and then told, go have fun with early voting. I mean, we need to have a long-term plan for putting this into place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the report, Carrie. I have no questions.
I just have what I think should be an easy one. You mentioned there's a lot of bills going around. What's the best way for folks who are either interested in an issue or want to express themselves or to raise an issue to you? How do they best get in touch with you? And what's the level of information do they need to provide? Yes, no, a whole book? Like how's the best? How do people participate?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's just as simple as a phone call, an email. I have a cell phone, an office line, bunch of different emails. It always filters to me. I also have, if anyone needs help connecting with anything, unemployment benefits, grants for small businesses, we have staff as well that can help with that. So there's really no way that you can't get in touch with me. Any way works. And it's as simple as someone called the other day and said, make sure the income tax joint filer threshold is raised. That's enough for me to go on. So.
And then for testifying in favor of bills, is that is remote still an option for folks who might want to, give their testimony?
It's extremely easy to testify at the Capitol with the remote option. If you wanted to testify in person or remotely, I'm happy to help with that, or my office can. You can also submit testimony online, and everything that is submitted online is part of the record book. So when I look up a bill, everyone's testimony is filed underneath that bill. So it's also really great to put it in writing, too.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Representative Wood, for being here. It's a really important time during our legislative session, so we really appreciate you being here. So you mentioned the Fair Share Bill, which is the HB 6633, I think. Mm-hmm. According to the financial analysis, which is posted on the website, it says that it will have potentially significant costs, quote unquote, to municipalities beginning in the fiscal year 2025. Mm-hmm. How are you going to make sure that that is not the case
well,
to Rocky Hill?
That's the discussion right now. They want us to do all this additional work and use town resources. And as I said at the church presentation, my questions were: we need to make sure that there's funding in there for the towns. The town employees, as I'm sure the town manager can attest to, are pushed to the max. I mean, with issues dealing with all kinds of other things in town. So if we're going to then say we need to put all this resources into additional zoning districts, like how are we training them for that? How are we funding that? Like that's their time and energy. So that's a great question, and we want to make sure that we're able to build affordable housing, but we want to make sure that we're not putting another unfunded mandate onto the towns.
Yeah, on a related topic, and I have a few topics here, so hopefully you'll bear with me. The other one is HB 6890, which is a related bill out there. I would like to know what your opinion about that bill is in conjunction with the Fair Share Bill 6633. Because according to the bill, it actually appoints a zoning czar, which really concerns me as being part of the municipal government and having zoning independence for our town. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that bill's going anywhere. There are a lot of housing bills that were, from our colleagues across the state looking at ways to help with affordable housing. In the case of manufacturing, when we had a severe decline in the number of companies working here in the state, we appointed a manufacturing czar, and it worked great. I think they were trying to use a similar model for this. And again, it needs a funding source.
So you think it's not going to go anywhere?
Yeah,
Even parts of it being,
I don't think so. I haven't read the entire bill in its entirety, but I know the zoning czar part of it needs a funding source. So if there's room in the budget, maybe they would appoint a czar and a staff, but I haven't heard that they're willing to do that.
but that would be terrible for us locally, right?
A zoning czar?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's going to decide where we put how many units?
right.
So that, I think that is a really big concern for us here, which I've heard, many times from, like you mentioned, having, 30 units on a half acre, land. So things like that we would like to keep under local control, obviously. So really appreciate all the help you can give us on that. And hopefully it does not seep into like some late night, 3 o'clock, amendment. So.
That's when we do our best reading.
Yeah, I totally believe you. Me too. I do that all the time. I'm up. So just changing topics here. I think you mentioned 5003.
Yep.
HB 5003. So there is a related bill, not 100% related, but parts of it, like Senate Bill 929, and it funds the expansion of the school meals program, which you guys funded for $60 million, and it's not part of the governor's proposal.
Right.
But House Leader Ritter and everybody else in this, in the leadership, I guess, supports having some sort of continuance for that program. What are your thoughts on that?
I have heard from people in town that thought it was really nice to have their school meals funded. We got feedback from people that work in the schools that there was a lot of waste that was going on. Some kids were saying they were having 2 and 3 lunches a day. Let's make sure we get funding to students that need school lunches and make sure we're doing the best that we can not to, pass this on to the schools to kind of deal with the additional. I mean, we're trying to pull this organic waste out of the supply. To hear that there was a lot of food that was thrown out was really sad to hear. And just to go back to the waste issue, one of the goals of putting this forward is to look at larger institutional settings like schools and focus on large corporate parks that have cafeterias and things like that, so that we're able to pull the supply out. And I think students would be great leaders in that space. So right now there is talk of having the school meals continue. Again, it needs to be funded, and right now it's not funded in the budget.
So yeah, I think that's a great segue to what I was going to mention next was, so our Board of Ed and the leadership, the school leadership, particularly our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, Mr. Zedegren, has publicly said that it's a great, well-intentioned bill, but without any state funding as it stands right now, it's going to put Rocky Hill in $1 million hole. And as we just talked about, the happenings of all these different bills and passing, the timing does not work for us. And as it goes today, that bill is slated for a July effective date, essentially. So, like I said, Mr. Zedegren has been on the record talking about this. Only 19% of our population here in Rocky Hill is using that program prior or currently, according to Mr. Zedegren, and 81% can afford those meals. So I would think, having additional burden on the school system when the intent should be more to like actually support people who need it, rather than having a mandate coming down from the state. So I would really like your thoughts on that. And if you were to vote on that bill today, would you?
I couldn't agree with you more. It's hard to vote for anything without funding. I don't want to pass additional, mandates onto the towns. In the end, it means our property taxes are threatened to go up. So taxes are an extremely important issue to those in the town. We have seniors on fixed income. And anything I can do to make sure we're not putting additional burden on the town of Rocky Hill is really important to me.
Yeah, and last but not the least is this the last topic. I would like to just see what do you think about this. This is more to do with this is the HB 6616, which is act concerning expansion of Husky Health benefits to up to like 26 years old, and now it has been brought down to 18. It used to be 12.
It is currently 12.
Right.
And if you are still requiring assistance, you can be grandfathered in through the age of 18.
But do you think it's a slippery slope to keep increasing the age to 26? Is that the ultimate goal of the legislature, to like go from 12 to 18 to 26?
The ultimate goal, I think, for many in the legislature is to have free universal health care, which to me is a topic that is a very serious discussion that needs to happen at the state
course.
level, because we all have to agree that we want to pay more in taxes to have free universal health care. My goal is we have our uninsured rate right now in the state is only 3%. So we're actually doing a really good job of covering people. But my concern are the people who are on really bad high deductible health plans. Believe it or not, I've talked to some people in the town that work for nonprofits and other companies. They're making $55,000 or $60,000 a year and have anywhere from a $5,000 to $8,000 deductible. And what that means is you pay out of pocket for your health care until you hit that $5,000 or $8,000 or $10,000. That is unaffordable. Those people are not going to the doctor. So we've put forward a bunch of bills. I'm on the Insurance and Real Estate Committee to help drive down those costs and allow people to get more affordable health care. So that is my personal goal. I'm not in the camp of moving towards free universal health care quite yet, because no one has said to me that, they're interested in doing that. And the state of Connecticut, as I said, we do a really good job of making sure that the state is insured. So providing better insurance is my goal.
All right, thank you.
Representative Wood, thank you for coming down and giving us a lengthy report on everything you're working on and a long session. So you guys are really covering a lot of ground there. I'm focusing on some questions regarding, so one is I heard from the fire chief earlier this evening in public safety that he was thrilled, and his crew was thrilled that, you and others, I guess maybe the state reps, welcomed the Firefighter of the Year award recipients and did a nice special, and it goes a long way, and I think that was awesome that you did that, and they even spent some time at the Lieutenant Governor's office talking. And any plans to do things like that for our policemen,
Yeah.
our law enforcement?
Yeah. I have not seen is there a yearly police officer recognition dinner? Because I haven't gone to one, but I have been invited to the firefighter one. I think they were on hiatus for several years because of COVID. So I'm happy to recognize anyone. If anyone has family or friends or community members that you'd like to bring up to the Capitol to recognize for various achievements, it's a really great opportunity. And I'd be happy to welcome people. And then if the governor or lieutenant governor, any of the constitutionals are in the building, we can go and lobby them on, topics that are of, importance as well.
Sure, so we could work through staff, I suppose, if we had nominees or things that happen, which we have over the years. We have had some pretty outstanding police work done. Sticking with the fire department, the highway bill that allows us to bill back for hours, because Rocky Hill responds to a lot of I-95 corridor accidents and what have you, motor vehicle accidents. We've billed to date $87,500, and I think we've received probably around 35 of that. Are we in jeopardy of not receiving the rest of the 87 billed?
This is the first I've heard of it. I'm happy to help, so let's talk offline.
Great. That would be awesome. I'm
Yep.
seeking your support on that. Because I think you were involved in helping us get that back on the books.
Yep.
Okay. And switching gears over to farmland, we have this successful ongoing successful Streska farm project going on, and it continues to move forward and all that. But farmers are finding it really difficult to compete and to continue to farm, especially the larger scale farmers, which we designed Streska to take on 3 farmers with leases. Are there programs that you could bring to our attention to support any of the farmers that have leases with us for that area
Yeah.
to help them farm it? To support,
We,
I mean, because they have all kinds of soil erosion problems.
Yeah.
I mean, all these things take money, irrigation.
Yes, that's a great question. Actually, the Department of Ag does grants all throughout the year, and I do email all the farmers on it and make sure that they are aware of that. There's even lost crop damage grants and things. Young farmers, there's just so many different types of grants that come out, and I do send them to all of our farmers in town. But if there's a place you want me to send it through the town council, I'm happy to do that as well.
Sure. So we have the Farmland Acquisition and Preservation, Land Preservation Committee. If you wanted to email, I mean, either staff or to my email, I'll bring it up with the committee that Councilor Duff sits with me on. Thank you. That's good.
All right, I'm just going to go one more time because I'm so excited to hear you say something about pilot, right? Because, oh my gosh. So I don't know if you know all the facts. I'm just going to give you like a really brief synopsis so you can take it back with you, right? But we have 29 properties, right, that are state properties, right? So they fall under the pilot umbrella. And that assessed value is $58 million, right? So if we were to tax it, it would be 5.4 million. And under pilot, we're supposed to get 45% of that, right? So it's like more than $2.4 million if we were fully reimbursed under pilot, right? And so CCM and cost have been, sounding the whistle that this is what's driving up local taxes. It's like this shell game, right, with the state. Like they don't fully fund these programs. And the way our budget cycle is, we don't know what to put in the budget because we don't know what to get. So like that 2.4 million carry that we're supposed to get, we only get 700,000. And I know we're not the only municipality, but that's why I was up there testifying, like, stop with all of the new programs where you're promising to reimburse us and just fund the ones that you already have there, because that would really help. So I just want to give you those, because if that helps you at all,
Yeah, no, that's,
advocate for us.
I've heard you say those numbers before, and it's
Okay.
it's really shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we had a slight increase in that, that is
Yeah.
a few teachers, and, who knows what else. But yes, I mean, we need to. There's actually bills to fully fund.
It's
pilot out
crazy,
there.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's crazy.
we're not the only ones talking about it. I mean, it's.
And is one more? I'm so sorry, but one more thing. Is there any way you could look into having OPM fund us in the same year our January reimbursement for car taxes and then the summer car taxes? Because what happens now when the governor capped the car tax, right? We lost all of that revenue that year. And then the following year, it was supposed to be reimbursed. But what happens is we file a form, we give it to OPM for January taxes, and we get that money back the next year, but we've lost all the summer taxes. So every year we're carrying this really substantial loss. So it's really a simple, quick fix. They get two forms, right? One in January, one in the summer. If they could just fund us, for both of those, then we're getting the full year of car taxes back. Otherwise, we're carrying the loss.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I'll,
Okay. Thank you.
ask what the.
Yeah.
Some of these agencies are very difficult just to get those questions answered, but I
Oh,
will-
Mona tries. Mona tries forever. Thank you.
And John Malero sits on Farmland too. So you have Duff, myself, and John Malero. Any of our emails.
Carrie, thank you for coming. I'll take the question in a completely different direction. So I won't ask you about any of the bills, but chairing the Finance Committee, being very familiar with our town budget, as a town, we're very restricted on how we can bring in revenue, right? It's property taxes and state money. And there's really no other way for us to get revenue into the town. So one of the things I pitched 6 years ago to Tony Guerrero when he was our representative was something about an occupancy tax.
Yeah, we were just talking about that
And-
at the beginning of the session.
Yeah, and it hasn't come through, but as a town like Rocky Hill that has several hotels and motels in town, usually by people outside of the state of Connecticut, so we're not burdening Connecticut taxpayers. And it's something I know when I travel, I'm paying 2 to 5% for a local occupancy tax. Is there a way the legislature could let municipalities or pass something so municipalities could get that occupancy tax
Yes.
into our coffers?
We just need to pass it, because right now it's not allowed for Rocky Hill to just say, we're going to add
Right.
an additional 2%. So we just need to pass it at the state level to allow municipalities to do that. So we had talked about this earlier. I forgot who I was talking with about this, but I'm happy to put the bill in. We should probably do a working group over the summer on it and look at the way other states have done it, because I know all of us have traveled outside the state and seen that line item. So yes, I think we can definitely work on it and definitely put a group together and probably get a ton of support.
Sure. Yeah, it's, when you travel, you'll notice a lot of times it's a county tax. So it gets split not amongst a single town, but amongst the county. Well, our county is just real estate lines, so there's got to be a way to work through that detail. But, it's almost like an additional sales tax.
Right.
Thank you.
Great. I'll try to keep it brief. Thanks, Representative Wood, for coming. I'm going to kind of echo some of the sentiments, but there's kind of a theme you may have heard tonight, and this is probably more for you to relay than for you, because you probably are on the same, probably preaching the choir to an extent, but I want to talk about kind of the unfunded mandates of pilot and the motor vehicle cap, and then on one hand, then in the next news story you hear there's a $3 billion surplus in the budget. It kind of, as Parliament has to work on the budget, and would love to see some of that surplus money come where it's owed to us. I mean, you're in the for-profit world. Someone can't claim their net worth is X amount and just forget about the liabilities, right? So we would hope the state wouldn't do that. And that $1.7 million that the mayor referred to, that's probably about $750,000 right there.
Yeah.
And that's significant. So I'm just going to echo some of the comments that have been made, and it'd be great if we can kind of get the money that's part of the programs that are already in place, and that would really be a great boost, when
And
everything is going up in price.
Thank you for I just want to explain what the surplus means, because it's really misleading. The budget constraints, the guardrails, as we call them, basically says we can only spend so much. We can only collect so much. So basically, the surplus is not just extra money that's floating around out there. A surplus is money that's going into a rainy day fund. Once the rainy day fund is full, we start putting the extra into paying down pension debt.
Right.
And for the first time in 45 years, we have paid down pension debt almost to the tune of $6 billion, which sounds huge, but it is nowhere even close. I wish we can phrase things differently, because right now, if you're born in Connecticut, you are already saddled with, I think it's $60,000 or $70,000 worth of debt because of this unfunded liability. It makes it difficult for large corporations to look at Connecticut seriously, because if we have this huge debt, these corporations think like they're going to raise corporate tax, they're going to come after us to kind of cover that cost.
Right.
The last two budget cycles, we've really changed that tone, to the rest of the country, and said, we are doing the smart thing. We're putting money in the bank and we're paying down debt, and our credit rating has gone up. And believe it or not, we're able to borrow money cheaper because of that. Additionally, our budget, if you think of it as a circle, and I want to put more money into pilot. Well, we have these fixed costs that, because of these unfunded liabilities, you just can't even touch. And every time we put money into our debt, and this is employee health plans, pensions, we then free up parts of that budget where I can come back and say, hey, I got some extra money to go to this, line item. So it just means we finally are doing the right thing after decades of not. And there's no extra money laying around. We're just saving it for when there's a dip. We won't have to go back to the towns and say, we're giving you zero for pilot. We're giving you, we're cutting the education funding. It's just to make sure we can pay the bills if there's a recession that comes. And we all know if a recession does hit, that $3 billion in the rainy day fund will go very quickly. So we did actually raise that, one of the first things we did this year. So there's collecting more money in there. But that's what a surplus is.
You know, I'm glad because I mean, back when we had the '08 banking crisis, I was telling everybody, if you think the banking crisis is bad, wait to see the unfunded pension liability crisis that's coming. So I'm glad Connecticut's doing something because Connecticut is doing better, but there's still a long way to go. And Connecticut's not the only state, believe me, I'm sure in that circumstance. But going back to your comments about putting money in the rainy day fund, why wouldn't money that's already owed to the towns as part of the motor vehicle cap or the pilot program go to them before going to the rainy day fund if it's already owed to the town, so to speak?
That's a great question. And I think that's what we do every day when I talk to the town staff and ask how I can be helpful. Why are we not getting the money from the motor vehicle tax that we were supposed to get? I mean, there's this brushing aside, of funds and moving things around. Just this highway reimbursement for the fire, department. We had this fund in place, and then the next year comes and it's gone. I wish I was working in OPM in those areas to understand the shifting of money more, but it's really what happens every budget cycle.
Yeah, because I mean, something probably the mayor didn't even put into her numbers is if a resident is late on his or her property taxes, they're charged interest on it. And so, and I'm sure you factor that in, but that doesn't happen with the pilot money. So there's actually more money we're losing if people are paying as late as.
I kind of like that idea. Let's charge the state interest on.
I had another idea which I won't mention, but
State first has to pay the principal, then they can pay the interest, not getting the principal.
But
That'll be a good start.
But I mean, you get the. I mean, there's kind of a common theme. And I think like I said, I'm sure we're preaching to the choir here. So, but if you can kind of help relay that message, because
I mean,
really hits home.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
We do relay the message, and then what I try to do is help. How can we do a return on our investment from any money with the state, whether it's Ames redevelopment, whether it's opening up the, industrial park. I mean, anything I can do, other projects, I know we're all working on these things, but if we can have a return on investment on some of the state money that's coming in, it will help us, with lowering property taxes in the long run.
Great. Thank you.
I have maybe a sensitive topic, completely off the chart with the monies we've been talking about and budget and so forth. There's not much more I can ask about that. It's been exhausted here based on questions, but I'm only bringing this up because I've been tagged on these, from many people come to me asking about, we're going to have an interesting summer around a sensitive topic around that assault that occurred in Rocky Hill. And I'm just curious to know, in your position, I'm sure you've been reached out plenty of times to have this conversation. Any advice on what you can give or offer, especially the feedback into maybe I can offer back to the folks that have been touching on that topic?
Yeah, I mean it's just a unfortunate topic that we we have to have, but during COVID we had a really big spike in property and car thefts, and with law enforcement, which I always look to as the people that can tell us what we can do to help, they had started a regional task force, and it was funded temporarily. And what that means is Rocky Hill, Cromwell, Berlin, Newington, those police forces can all work together with Hartford, which has much more advanced technology than our departments have. They can do DNA testing. Basically, when a car is stolen, they can go in with a team and get DNA and other things. So that car theft task force is now funded, and it's been working extremely well. These men and women are doing a fantastic job. They know who's stealing the cars. They are arresting at the time that I asked a few months ago, 4 out of 5. So how do we give them the tools to make that number greater? I think that's what we're going to work towards. Additionally, I know a lot of people were complaining about juveniles, and there's additional things that were put into place, including funding rehabilitation programs, getting them in front of a judge faster, holding longer. A lot of people were complaining they were being brought into the police station and then sent home. If they are at risk, that hold time is longer and they can get in front of a judge faster. programs like Regions and CPA, I believe it's called, are funded more now, and more of these programs are looking to open, and these are actually long-term holds with full school skills training. Like, they're there being prepared to go out in the real world and just be better individuals. The recidivism rate is extremely low when children and juveniles go through these programs. So there's been a lot that we've done, but I'm all ears on what we need to do to make sure that this never happens again. I mean, one incident like that is one too many, and I will be reaching out. I do talk to our law, enforcement in towns on what we can do better. I know the money for the LPRs and the, things that we can help track these types of things. Police officers can't be everywhere. So what outside the box things are we thinking of to help them do their job better and help keep the community safe? So overtime funding was also part of the bill that we passed. So there are the funds to cover the task force, and any overtime that goes into that was part of the last budget cycle.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I have a coffee with Carrie Wednesday at 8 a.m. at Bob's, if you'd like to join me.
Thank you so much for your time. Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov and will be provided with a link to attend the meeting and instructions on how to participate. So we will get started. I'm going to ask that when you come up to the microphone that you please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Manohar Penamraju. I live at 114 Boulder Drive, Rocky Hill. Mayor and the council, good evening. Good evening, all of you. I am here today to bring a proposal. Myself and a friend of mine, Rakesh Reddy, and few friends of ours that are representing a cricket community. It is a sport which is gaining a huge popularity.
Excuse me, one moment. Could you just make sure you speak into the mic so that we can do the minutes? Yes.
Okay. And please bear with my voice. It could be sounding grouchy because of my allergies.
No, I hear you close. As long as you're close, we hear you.
Okay. All right. So, thank you. I'm here today to let you know that in 2021, we formed this cricket club in Rocky Hill, and we met with the Parks and Rec department. We have explained to them, and we requested if we could establish a cricket ground, our own cricket ground for Rocky Hill. We gave the details to Parks and Recreation Director. We haven't heard anything after that, but recently we just heard that it's been approved to build something like that for that sport, a cricket ground. We are very happy, excited, but we also heard that it is being built at the expense of a seniors lunch meals program. So in other words, some of the grants or funds that are used towards that lunch and meal program could be used for this cricket field. And we as a cricket community, sporting community, we want the sport to come here to our town, but not at the cost of a program like that, which is, we feel very helpful for seniors, not just because they're going to get a meal, it is also because they get to spend time together, build new bonds and relations. So we request, what we want to propose is that for a cricket field, that kind of funding is not enough, because if you look at the details that we provided, it needs a larger ground, and you need to build an appropriate, proper, and viable ground. Even if it needs more funding, we as a community would like to work with the town, would like to work with the state, would like to work with our own communities, and try to help raise that kind of funding so that we can put a proper field. So our proposal, I hope you heard our proposal, and we hope that you look into it and say yes and accept our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yeah. Sam?
Good evening, council members. This is Ritesh. I'm from 16 Windy Hill Lane. So I just came here to show my support to whatever Manu said, to just tell a bit about our cricket. As such, we have been playing professional cricket from 20 years, and we have been going around different towns throughout the state. So we are looking forward for a ground which is at our own town. But as you might know, like these grounds, like any professional ground, comes with some basic boundaries, which we can, we want it so that we can play professionally. So that's the reason we are requesting the ground to have some minimum guidelines so that we can play professional cricket. At the same time, lastly, I don't want this to come out of the seniors' lunch program. So we request you to look into our proposal and help us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yep.
I see you, Mr. Wisniewski, raising your hand.
Peter Friedrich, 20 Water Chase Drive. It is shocking and shameful that at least as far back as 2016 and as recently as fall of 2022, the town of Rocky Hill has repeatedly welcomed with open arms America's branch of the Islamic State. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, my mistake. Let me check my notes. I meant to say that the town of Rocky Hill has on many occasions platformed and praised an offshoot of the white supremacist group known as the Ku Klux Klan. I got it wrong again. Third time is the charm. Since at least 2016, the town of Rocky Hill has regularly hosted photo ops and participated in events with the Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh, or HSS. The HSS is the international wing of the RSS, a fascist and racist paramilitary in India, which is responsible for assassinations, terrorist bombings, and large-scale anti-minority massacres. Although last year, in the mayor's words, the HSS made the council all feel incredibly special, the Indian victims of the RSS's violence were not incredibly honored by your felicitation of that paramilitary's international wing. Indeed, those victims were probably left questioning the town's motivation for platforming and praising the HSS. Was it naivete, ignorance, or indifference? For the sake of argument, let's settle on ignorance. There is an easy fix for that: research. We can safely assume that Rocky Hill would not want to accidentally platform and praise the American branch of the Islamic State or an offshoot of the KKK. What's the best way to avoid doing that? Take 5 seconds to Google the organization before you start posing for photo ops with it. If you do that, you'll quickly discover that the HSS is the international wing of the RSS, and that when the town of Rocky Hill gives space to the HSS, it is not much different from embracing white supremacists or radical Islamists. So please do your homework next time. In the meantime, I prepared a cheat sheet for all of you, and I have a copy for every counselor of a short information packet about the HSS and its ties to the RSS back in India. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. You can leave that with our, thank you. Perfect. All right. Anyone else who wishes to be heard? Mr. Wisniewski. Mukesh, Mr. Wisniewski's coming up.
I will defer to you. Quite a night. Charles Wisniewski, 670 Old Main Street. Charlie Wisniewski, 670 Old Main Street, Rocky Hill. A budget-related comment. As you decide about more ball fields, recreational fields, versus less quality senior lunches, please inform the taxpayers about your efforts to collect $550,000 from Town Center West. The old town attorney is the new town attorney. He was involved with this deal. Here is the executed version, stamped, received by the town clerk, which I'm going to give to you. I think that this money is still due to the town.
The development has an additional phase to complete. Pursuing this money, or maybe you have, would be helpful now or in the future. It's 11 times the difference between the senior lunch program as it exists and what is proposed. It's a very significant amount of money. I know you're going to look at me and you say you can't comment, but I would like to hear from someone in the town's government or management in writing as to what has happened with this. It's a lot of money. Budget. As a senior taxpayer and parent of 5 former Rocky Hill athletes, I will pay higher taxes for the better senior lunch over a seasonal recreational field. I don't understand the whole issue about lunches, and I know next Tuesday it's on your budget agenda. So as I understand it, it's CRT versus the present meals. Who decided that the same amount of meals could be provided at $20,000 a year versus $77,000, whatever those numbers are? What was the criteria? Is it money versus quality? Please explain this next Tuesday. Is CRT subsidized by the state or federal government? How can they provide the same lunch quantity, maybe in quality, at that significant discount? How did we get here? Please do that for next Tuesday. A non-budget item. In the last month or so, you've had many people address you from this podium about the concierge apartments and rent increases. Affordable housing is a significant issue in Rocky Hill. Concierge is presently imposing a 20% rent increase. And part of the difficulty is they're a large corporation and they have the ability to pressure tenants. But we have a Fair Rent Commission which has not met since November 14th. And there's no future meeting scheduled on the town website. Please somehow help these residents by just performing the simple functions that exist already in our government. I'm not going to say their rent will be reduced, but we do have some ability to do it. But if that commission doesn't meet, it can't help anyone. And just as an item that was discussed earlier by Representative Woods, I too attended the meeting at the Congregational Church, and no one knows what the outcome will be from this legislature about affordable housing. I'm not in favor of any bill that forces us to do housing. The vessel was a crazy idea. I know we're being sued about it. And the mayor, a few minutes ago, said that after the budget process, we'll form a committee. We did adopt a plan in December of 2022, and I don't know what the future date is. Maybe it's June, maybe it's July. But in order to maintain more local control, you have to have the committee. You have to be able to work and do something. And granted, you give all your time for all these different things, but somehow you need to move forward. And one of the issues discussed at the Congregational Church was how will the work get done? Clearly, the manager's budget doesn't leave a lot of people here. And, it's a trade-off between are we going to have a recreational field, a cricket field, or whatever? You've got to do better in terms of getting things moving. You all can't just do it yourself. Create a committee, let them work, just like every other function in the town. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
you.
Good evening. My name is Mukesh Desai, living at 129 Lavender Lane. I serve on the town council as a Democrat between 2017 to 2019. I was heavily involved in building up our senior lunch program. I'm proud of the work which we started, which has led to us serving much more seniors healthy lunches today. I'm here tonight to show my support for our seniors. Again, I'm also part of a Rock Hill Cricket Club, and I support the club's generous offer to raise the needed funds to build the cricket field. This is a great option where we can relocate the cricket funds to our seniors, but also bring forward new incentive in our town by having a cricket field with the support of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hello, I'm Rajiv Desai from 721 France Street. I am here on behalf of the cricket team and also the cricket group that we have here in Connecticut. The key question is, we are coming from the nation where the cricket is our national sports. And we are cricket-loving people. But we don't want to sacrifice the senior lunch program against the cricket. So we want to make sure on expense of cricket ground, please don't change any benefit for the seniors. What we are trying to request humbly is, we can get fund from the state, we can get fund from the town, and we can also raise some money. So we want to work with the town and also with Park and Rec. We are requesting Park and the entire committee try to educate what our needs are. I think the Park and Rec don't understand that we need a 60 to 65 yard of cricket ground. We have submitted drawings and everything, but we required one kind of community committee that can educate the Park and Rec and that can educate the member here also. So our goal is to get some funding from the state, some funding from the town, and if it is required, we can also request the community to donate some money. But we are here to support the senior. We want to make sure that Rocky Hill senior community is happy and healthy. The senior community is growing here because we are providing a good service, good meal, and we don't want to take away their food and the benefits they are getting. One more time, I humbly request that let's try and form a committee. Let educate Park and Rec. Let educate the member what are our needs, what kind of ground we need. We have submitted the drawings and everything. Please work on it. And please request the state. Carrie is here. She tried also a couple of years back to get the funding from the state. Let's try to get some funding from the state and also from the town. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Donald Pitkin. I live at 65 Butternut Lane. I'm here to ask why we have to take $55,000 away from feeding myself and all the other seniors in this town. For a field? Come on. I mean, I was part of that committee, the senior liaison committee that got the senior center rebuilt and refurbished. And one of the biggest things was the luncheon. I was sitting at Mitchell's one day looking at their menu, and I says, I didn't know you catered. That's how they got in here, through that catering business. I think the seniors are more important than any field we could build. Talk about the field of dreams, let's think about the seniors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Jen Morfea from Tumblebrook Road. I just wanted to thank everybody, all the town councilors that made comments in regard to the awful events that happened this weekend. As somebody who grew up here and came back and is raising her family here, it's really disheartening to see things like that happening in our community. And I hope it doesn't just end with statements. I hope we all as a community can rise up and show these people they're not welcome here. I can't stop thinking about the mom who's scared to let her kid ride a bike because he might be on the same street these people are passing leaflets on. It's something we should all think about. It's something I don't need to think about with my kid. And I have that privilege, I guess, that I don't have to think about things like that. So again, I wanted to say thank you for everybody who stood up. And I think as a community, we have to show our force and show them that they're outnumbered and really show our unity as a community on this one. And also, I just wanted to quickly address the school lunch program. It is 18% who currently qualify, but that doesn't mean that it's 18% that can afford. The income limits are really low. I don't remember exactly, so my numbers could be a little bit off, but from what I was reading, it was like $43,000 for a family of 5. I don't know a family of 5 that's not struggling with $43,000 income. So I personally would like to just see those limits raised, maybe, instead of the free lunch for everybody. But even me as a mom, I know we saved $900 a year just when that program did kick in. And we were fine paying the lunch, but when that program kicked in, we saved $900 in the school year. So everybody did benefit from it, which I was able to put away for my son's college, an extra almost $1,000 just from saving for the school lunch program. So that's just another thing to think about. And we did talk about the food waste, and we're trying to implement plans to take care of that because that is an issue. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chuck Robinson, 54 Pratt Street, Rocky Hill. I'm speaking in favor of the senior lunch program. I have to first of all say, I have been amazed by what I heard tonight. I had no expectation as how interconnected and difficult all these issues were. And I didn't know. I think a lot of people should be encouraged to come here and listen to this, to understand what's really going on. As a matter of fact, I would bet you they wouldn't have the plane inside. They'd say, what is this? Where am I? Am I in the United Nations? Am I in Washington, D.C.? No, you're in Rocky Hill, the next best thing. So, and I don't want to hurt any fields and the rest of it. I think that the senior program, the good meals, is something that they have earned, the seniors have earned over the years, and they deserve to have it. But I am so moved, but with admiration for you and the kind of difficulty of the issues you have to deal with. I did not understand all that. And but I really appreciate you so much more. And as far as the people speaking about the cricket fields, that's important to them. And you have some very hard decisions to make. But I really think the seniors have earned it over the years, and I hope that they're not hurt because that lunch program has been wonderful. And I thank you, and I just wish you all the best. You need the wisdom of Solomon, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tony Palazzolo, George Road. I am here tonight to present a petition. I somehow inherited this job. I didn't ask to do this, but it got passed. And finally my husband said, oh, I can do that. I'm a veteran. And I think he thought he was just going to walk up here and literally hand it to you and sit down. And I said, no, you got to do a little bit more than that. You got to read. He said, well, okay, Tone, you take over. So here I am. You won me. In February of 2023, Big Y generously began donating bakery items on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and to the Community Senior Center to benefit senior nutrition, not the Human Services Food Bank. During the initial month of the Big Y donation program to the Community Senior Center, the donated items were placed by the Director of Senior Services on a conveniently located table and made available to seniors in attendance at the center. Human Services was able to take a few loaves of bread from the Community Senior Center program for its own food pantry. Volunteers from the Community Senior Center picked up and donated bread as opposed to the paid staff needed now since Human Resources took over the program. That means they're paying out of our tax dollars to pick it up, whereas we had a volunteer. While Senior Services ran the bakery item program, a donation jar for the bakery items yielded some additional money used for senior lunches and nutrition. Prior to building the new Community Senior Center, efforts to raise funds for senior activities and programs were opposed by the Director of Human Services because the funding might detract from youth programs. Now the opportunity to add funds to the senior lunch program has been taken away from the seniors. In March, the Senior Services Director received a letter sent on behalf of the Director of Human Services saying that Human Services will be taking over the Big Y donation program and invites seniors to go to the Kennedy House, 673 Main Street, to pick up the donated items. The invitation shows that those making this decision do not know anything about the seniors benefiting from the Big Y's donation. Point: many of the seniors ages 65 to 95 who benefited from Big Y's generosity came from the Community Senior Center, riding the senior bus, and have mobility issues, many using wheelchairs, walkers, and canes. The bullet, the 0.2 to 0.3 mile walk to and then back to the Kennedy House. And you might also add that that's on rough pavement. In other words, if you have mobility issues, you also can have balance issues. I'm adding that in here. But I know it's true. So anyway, making it impossible for those seniors to pick up the bread items donated to the seniors from Big Y. Bullet, the emotional and negative feeling of needing to go to the Kennedy House to get a loaf of bread makes it even less likely that these seniors will go. Bullet, the result of moving the bakery donations from the Community Senior Center and expecting seniors to go to the Kennedy House to attain these items effectively denies the seniors the opportunity to easily obtain the donated items with dignity. This is totally unacceptable. What needs to be remembered is that Big Y donates these bakery items to the seniors at the Senior Community Center to enhance senior nutrition, and this is where the distribution of the donated bakery items should remain. Based on the above, we, the undersigned petition the town manager, mayor, town council, and the Director of Human Services to reverse the decision made by the town manager and/or the mayor and the Director of Human Services to move the Big Y bakery donations from the Community Senior Center to the Human Services Food Pantry and to immediately return the distribution of the Big Y donated bakery items to the Community Senior Center. I have attached here 1, 2, 3, about 3 1/3 pages for a 2-day solicitation. I might add that you need to know that the fact that seniors are not out in the hall waiting to get in here, whether it's tonight or last week, is symbolic of the fact that they are in the time of life where some don't drive at night, some can't drive at night, and some no longer drive. This is only a sampling of how strong the feelings are of our community, and mathematically we represent at least 1/3 of the population. It depends on where you count, 55, 62, 65. However, just mathematically a rough estimate is 1/3. And we all know death and taxes are inevitable. We just request our portion before we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Brian Palazzolo, Bailey Road, Rocky Hill. adding on to Mrs. Palazzolo's comments, between 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the senior center has more than 100 people coming in and out, whether they go to lunch, whether they go to a meeting, whether they go to work out in the gym. And when the bread and the other pastries were there, they could go buy them and take them as they wish. The other, another factor is access to the Human Services building. To get there, if you're going to walk from this town, from the town hall to the facility, you have to walk on this sidewalk. You're people that are walking with canes and walkers and walking that distance. They're not going to walk when there's rain or snow. When the seniors are brought to the senior center, they come by bus. If you take a bus and bring it over to the building, they have to park in their driveway. If it's raining, they're going to have to walk from the bus to the building. When you to get into the building, I went there, you have to ring a doorbell. And then you have to sign in. And the layout of the bread is on a table maybe 4 feet by 3 feet and maybe a couple of layers. If you have seniors going over there with walkers, you're lucky if you get 3 walkers in there at one time. And if you have more, they have to wait outside. Then I was also told that maybe a bus could take them. You could have a special bus to take the seniors to for the bread or whatever. However, the bus has to wait for them because they can't leave the seniors there because there's no place for them to sit and keep warm. Over here, when the bus leaves them in the morning at 11 o'clock or 10:30, they're here until 2, when the bus will show, or till 3. So you've been you're making it very difficult for a senior to get the bread, whatever it is, and the variety. Over here, we have a big variety of bread and pastry. Over there, you're going to be limited. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Irene Kerber, 22 Maxwell Drive. It's very short. I'm just sure that everybody here was for the lunch program, but I did not anticipate that the Indian people really spoke out. I mean, this is what blew my mind. They really are set in saying not to take our lunch program away. So I just wanted to thank them. I don't know if they've all left, but I think they should be thanked for saying that. They didn't have to. And I hope they can get their cricket field. I don't know if we have the money for it, but there are people living here. I don't feel like they're bad people at all. I don't know. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you
That's
so
all.
much. Thank you very much. All right, if we're going to end, are you coming up for a public comment? Okay.
We have written correspondence.
Oh, that's right. And Julianne has one.
Hi, my name's Kate Schramm, 40 Orchard Street. I just wanted to share with the town council that some of that hate mail that was sprinkled across lawns was in my neighborhood. I found it walking my dogs. That is not the kind of thing you want to pick up off the ground. When I saw it, I thought someone had thrown handfuls of fortune cookie fortunes out of their window for some reason. And so I picked one up thinking oh, maybe it's my fortune today. And I'm like, this is not the fortune I want, ever. This is not the fortune the town wants. This is not the fortune our nation wants. And so I just really want to urge the town council and, everybody here listening, we all know the people in our neighborhoods that are here in Rocky Hill who are people who are most likely have the kind of political views that would show up, that could be sympathetic to these kinds of things. We like to think that it's from somewhere else, it's from some agitating group, but the Southern Poverty Law Center shows us in their research that that is not true. We have lots of hate groups here in our state. They're well represented, and it's not and it's not an urban problem, and it's not a rural problem, and it's not a suburban problem, it's a statewide problem. So I just want us all to be cognizant of that, and to get to know your neighbors, do outreach, have those personal connections, because that's how we grow the love between us and grow that compassion and empathy for one another. And that's what helps bring people back from the brink when these things are sympathetic. So that's my one comment. And I have a real quick thing. Who was it that brought up the occupancy tax? Hey, okay. So right now, and this is also for Carrie, so I really apologize for addressing two audiences at the same time. HB 6692, an act authorizing certain arts, culture, and tourism grants. It's currently in Commerce. I think it's trying to get into the Appropriations Committee at the state capitol. And what they're trying to do is take some funding that has been allocated for arts, tourism, and culture, and that has never gone to arts, tourism, and culture. Again, it's state money that's supposed to be going there but isn't. And it's also asking for a 1.5% more of a percentage, so a total of 3% from a statewide occupancy tax that would fully fund arts, culture, and tourism with reliable, steady funding. And this is the kind of cultural tourism that would not only draw more people into our hotels through tourism stuff, but it would also provide funding for cultural activities and grants, such as funding a cultural cricket pitch, or potentially, funding cultural events or festivals or music performances. So bear that in mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Okay, we're going to close. Oh, Joanne needs to read.
Okay. All right, I have an email here dated today that was sent to Mayor Murata and the town councilors. Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Triblitz. I live at 12 Belden Lane, Rocky Hill, Connecticut. I realize this is not an agenda item. However, I feel an urgency to make a statement, urgent action to address the hate crime in Rocky Hill on August 13th, 2023. I currently serve as the co-chair for the Racial Justice Steering Committee at Rocky Hill Congregational Church, and I am trained in organizing in anti-racism through the Greater Hartford Interfaith Action Alliance. Today I speak to you as a concerned resident. Beyond statements against hate, I urge the mayor, town council, and town manager to activate our town commission on inclusion and innovation to develop a plan to assess policies and procedures in Rocky Hill with the help of experts such as members of the CWC-SEO to ensure we are not doing harm to our residents of color and that we are providing our residents and town employees with anti-racist educational forums and training. Clearly, the neo-Nazi group involved believes that Rocky Hill has the potential for new recruits. Living in Connecticut often makes us feel shielded from the kind of white supremacist messaging that is occurring and growing rapidly on a national level. We need to be sure that our town takes every step possible to be anti-racist and combat the spread of hate and violence. Sincerely, Valerie Triblitz.
Okay. All right. I think we're done with public comment. So I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules, which I never, ever do this, but I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules. I want to make a statement. So-
And actually, I would like to make a statement as well,
All right.
if I can.
Well,
If you're
first,
gonna
I have a
suspend the rules.
motion. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, so I just want to clarify something that's been weighing very heavily on me over the past couple of meetings, and it seems like there is this rumor out there, okay, that we are taking money away from the senior center to give it to a youth recreation field that is under the Parks and Rec budget, and the lunches is under the senior center budget, right? Those are two very separate and distinct budgets. Each department head is charged with working within their budget, okay? Pitting seniors against our youth or vice versa is an awful tactic that we have seen exploited in the past. When our seniors were told year after year after year after year, it's not your turn, you cannot have a senior center. Where our schools faced severe overcrowding and our children and our parents, moms and dads and families were told, it's not your turn, it's a school problem. We don't do that, okay? This is one community. Everybody has a say in this community. And we have worked incredibly hard over the past few years to build multi-generational, sustainable programs, right? And so I don't want folks here in the audience, folks listening at home, to be misguided that somehow we sit here and we're going to look at seniors and we're going to look at youth and we're going to make a decision to take away from one to feed the other. That will never happen as long as I'm sitting in this chair, and it's not happening now. There have been cuts made to the proposed budget, and I want to be clear, it's a proposed budget. The town manager did an incredibly thorough job with the help of our finance director, and it's our job now to sift through it. Okay, but it's proposed, and there are other additions to it, and no one's talking about those additions. There's additions like an SRO. No one's coming here and saying, geez, I can't believe you're going to put an SRO on the road, but you're going to, take away from the senior lunches, because it doesn't work like that. We look at each department separately, and we work within those budgets. So I just want you to understand that. Did you want to say something?
Yes,
and we
please.
can go around,
Madam
if
Mayor, I
people
can,
feel
yeah.
compelled to say something.
So I really appreciate, as the only person of color on this council, all the concern about the racist litter that has been brought to this council. As a person of color, thank you. So if you can let me complete, please. So as a person of color, I'm really bothered by what happened over the last few days. And I really appreciate, as I was saying, people coming here and speaking on my behalf and on the behalf of other minorities on this council, and somewhat representing me. So I think it's only fair that I provide for the record my own thoughts on this issue. So, number one, nobody would argue that there is no racism and there are no racists around in this country or this town, or for that matter, anywhere in this world, right? They exist. My thought about this is racists should not be given oxygen from our leaders. The best way to counter racism is to express what everyone here expressed, their disgust and their condemnation. But no more than that is required. No more oxygen is required to be provided to racists around this town or any other town or any other country in the world. Because what we need to do as a society is to move on and do what we need to do to make ourselves better and our communities better and make this world better for our children. The more we talk about the racists, the more they do things which will make them the topic of discussion. So please, whatever it's worth, we all agree that what happened in this town was really disgusting. But let's not forget that we live in this town. I live in this town, and as an elected official, I can tell you, I cannot be more proud of this town, okay? I'm an immigrant off the boat, and here I'm sitting as an elected leader in this town, right in front of you guys, okay? So nobody can tell me that this town is racist, or this state is racist, or this country is racist. We need to make our own way and ignore the racists and the bigots and move on and do what is right for us, for our communities, and for our children. That's all I wanted to say. And thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak on this.
Okay, would anyone else like to make a comment? All right, thank you. We're going to move on to appointments and resignations. Councilor Duff?
No appointments or resignations.
Deputy Mayor?
No appointments or resignations.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the town council meeting of April 3rd.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And I guess I'll make a motion to approve the town council public hearing of April 4th.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. And one abstention and two abstention, Counselor O'Sullivan and Counselor Sharma. And if it's okay, could we take a 2-minute recess?
Motion to recess?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. My mouth is full.
You're going to do the.
Disappointed in myself.
Make a motion to come out of recess.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we have moved up on the agenda. I'm looking for it. Discussion, possible action, abatement of taxes of surviving spouse of a police officer, firefighter, or emergency medical technician, and yes, new business subsection A. Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to accept the abatement of taxes of surviving spouse of a police officer, firefighter, or emergency medical technician provided in our packet. Do I need to read that?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Do you want us to read?
No, no.
No. Okay. Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. There you go. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your patience tonight.
Okay,
Subcommittee reports.
we're going to move on to subcommittee reports, starting with finance. Finance.
So the Finance Committee did meet on April 13th, now that we have no audience left. We have two items on the consent agenda this evening. One is the suspense list, and those are taxes that the town has tried to collect, have not been able to collect, and we as a council need to approve putting them onto the suspense list. The town will continue to try to collect them for a period of up to 15 years. The second item is a tax refund that's on the consent agenda, and the only reason this is on the consent agenda this evening is because the dollar amount exceeds $10,000, requires council approval. The town is moving forward with its tax sale, scheduled for May 20th. We've made real good progress on this. We started off with 26
Alan?
properties.
April 20?
April 20th.
So this week.
Yes, sir.
I said that earlier, and you said no. April 20th, this week. We made good progress. We started off with 26 properties on the list that owed $329,000 in taxes. We are at 7 properties, and I don't know if the last 2, there was 2 that may continue to come off.
We may have another one come off the next
Okay.
day or so.
And only 185,000 outstanding. So we've made great progress. The other item that we spent a little bit of time on is, for the first time in a while, we reviewed legal bills for the town, and I requested this be put onto the agenda again, because we wanted to take a look at the legal bills in relation to the lawsuit filed against Concierge, because I think that caught many of us on the council by surprise. We weren't informed about it. We didn't get all the information on the tax bills, so we'll have some more information at our next finance meeting. We only went back to 2022. In this case, actually went back to 2021. Subsequent to that, I had a conversation with Mayor Murata, and we are going to have an executive session at a subsequent council meeting once we reach out to our town legal counsel, so we can get an update on where this case is from our town attorney. This isn't necessarily a finance issue, but, part of the reason we need this update is when the town takes legal action, or we as a council are involved in legal action, and it's against one of our largest taxpayers, we need to be informed of the process. So that will take place at an upcoming council meeting during executive session. We reviewed our financial reports. Nothing stood out there, and all of our state revenue that was anticipated has come in, and anything that has not come in is on schedule and still anticipated to be received in the current year. Our next meeting is May 11th at 6 p.m.
Thank you so much. Government operations?
Government operations was not scheduled to meet since our last town council meeting, but we are next scheduled on Monday, May 1st.
Thank you. Public safety?
Public Safety did meet earlier today, and we started off with just kind of recognizing, most people know by now that Chief Custer has retired, and it came on rather quickly, so he is not here tonight, but and he wasn't at Public Safety for the first time. Chief Collette took his spot, and we did want to recognize some of Chief Custer's high points. One is that Chief Police Michael D. Custer was appointed on January 2nd, 2003, and served a 20-year tenure with Rocky Hill. Some of the major accomplishments, not all of them: one, obtained full accreditation from the CALEA organization, the Commission on Accreditation and Law Enforcement Agencies, Inc., which is known as the gold standard in public safety and is national in scope. Two, he graduated from the National Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI Academy. Three, he played an instrumental role in the Capital Region Chiefs of Police Association and served as a training coordinator identifying and recommending programs and certifications for officers in our region. Four, he played a vital part in a new police department project, creating one of the best, highest quality police department facilities in Connecticut, which included a state-of-the-art dispatch center, a new evidence room, and upgraded ADA compliant jail cells. And five, increased the minimum staffing level and number of first-line patrol officers within Rocky Hill Police Department to ensure a safe community. And we have come to rely on that the last 3 years, the increased presence of patrol officers on our street doing good policing work. The fire department reported responding to 44 new incidents, bringing their year-to-date total to 165. They recorded another 342 training hours, bringing the year-to-date to 1,234. They have 0 firefighter injuries to report, which is great. Their total active employment or staffing is 63, 57 are active. The membership is described as being stable and constant. They did have several firefighters receive Firefighter of the Year award at the Capitol and the Lieutenant Governor's office specifically. Some folks may be wondering about a capsized boat that was in the river, and we did assist in. It was unmanned, and I guess they tied it up and secured the boat, the craft, but I don't believe there's anything more to add to that. But in case folks noticed a capsized boat, that's what it was, a capsized empty boat. And our boat, the Rocky Hill Safety Patrol Boat, river boat, is still coming out of winter hibernation and needs fuses and a new radar, so it's behind the gun on that. So I suspect we'll be hearing more about that. There was a donation from a staffer of a car, they call it Car 43, which is a safety support vehicle. It's a Ford Explorer, and so the department has a new vehicle, but it's a donated vehicle, and it will help house drone equipment and show up at events where to provide safety and backup. The ambulance reports 39 active writing members, 9 associate members non-writing, 13 probationary members in training, 2 are on medical leave, and 4 are on leave college schooling. A total membership of 67. Otherwise, there were not many other additional things to report there. The police department reports calls for service at 3,090 for March, criminal arrests 26, motor vehicle accidents 25, DUIs 1, infractions issued 60, warnings issued 163. So warnings are usually motor vehicle warnings, and they continue to be well over the 150 mark month after month. So they're doing a lot of stops. We continue to participate on the Hartford Task Force, and there probably should be some news at our next public safety regarding busting a ring on catalytic converters. No report from emergency management, and the Central Health District had an upbeat report telling us that our towns and the state are very low in, on the COVID infections going forward here. So for Berlin, the past 7 days there were 3. In Newington, the past 7 days, 6. In Rocky Hill, the past 7 days, 4. In Weathersfield, the past 7 days, 4. So this is good news and trending in the right direction. And of course, on May 11th, the public safety alert ends for the COVID-19 pandemic. And the next meeting is May 16th at 5:30.
Thank you very much. Senior Liaison.
Senior Liaison has not met. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 24th at 5 p.m. And for any of the seniors who would like to attend that meeting and discuss the senior lunch program or the senior bread program, that would be an appropriate time to come. We'll make sure those are on the agenda. Councilor Thoreau, Councilor Sharman, and I are on that committee. If you can attend, please reach out to any of us and we will discuss or express your concerns. That we only meet quarterly, and if there is a need for a special meeting, such as the topics we've been hearing, we will call a special meeting. We just need to be asked.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Land acquisition and farmland preservation.
No meeting. Our next meeting is going to be on the 25th at 6.
Thank you so much. Liaison to the state rep and to the state senator.
No report. We just had a great report this evening.
Thank you so much.
That is May 11th for the public safety alert ending.
Okay, thank you.
For the COVID.
Thank you.
And I should mention that there's a drug take-back day for the police department, and that is Saturday, 9:30 to 2:30. Drug take-back.
You could take that off your list now, right? Spoiler, right? Where are we? School liaison.
No report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Capital Improvements Committee.
No meeting, no report.
Thank you. Economic Development Subcommittee.
Also no meeting, no report.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on now to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Moving on to old business, discussion, possible action, American Rescue Plan, ARP funding options. Anybody? Nobody.
Just given,
Yes.
Yeah, given the proposed budget, is there a time where we would remove that as a recurring item on the agenda? Perhaps after the budget plan?
Let's do it after the budget, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe there will be a little left. Yeah. All right. New business. We have moved A, we're done. B, discussion, possible action, adoption of fair housing resolution.
You will see in your agenda package a fair housing resolution that we must pass in order to complete our small cities application for the Housing Authority. I guess you can just do a simple motion to adopt the resolution. That will go back to the consultant, and he'll include that into the small cities application.
Maybe we will, when you do the motion, maybe we will say as attached into the minutes or, whatever, so that we know that it's the same one that's moving forward.
I'm not going to incorporate it by reference.
Yes, yes.
Sorry.
You want to make the motion?
I move that we adopt the fair housing policy
Resolution.
resolution and incorporate by reference from our packet.
Perfect.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, discussion, possible action, adoption of fair housing policy statement.
Ditto. In order to be eligible for the small cities application, we must adopt the fair housing policy annually during April, which is Fair Housing Month. So I suggest a similar motion.
Okay.
I'll move that we adopt the fair housing policy statement, incorporate by reference that included in our packet.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. update state reimbursement grant review. So Mona is going to share with us some documents that she's provided, she's been working on relative to what we get in and what we are supposed to get in, what maybe we are not getting in.
Okay. So I know that Mayor had mentioned some of this earlier when we had Kerry Wood here, so I'll go over some overviews. We're focusing, at least on this documentation, on the pilot, which is a reimbursement grant, and also the motor vehicle transition, which is also reimbursement from the state. Concern being that we are not receiving what we should for the current year. Just trying, it's a lot of numbers to review, and I know it's getting late, so I can try to do the high-level overview. For the pilot, for example, there is, you'll find the third page of the attachment actually lists all of those pilot properties. This is from our assessor, the 29 properties that have assessed values of over $158 million. If we were taxing them at their full amount, in the comparison of 21-22 to the next year's budget, should, if we were fully taxing them, generate about from 5.4 to $5.8 million. The understanding with the pilot grant is that we were being reimbursed at 45%. If you looked at the summary page, you can see that we should be looking at something in the $2.4 to $2.5 million range. What we have received historically, $500,000, current year $706,000, and what is in the governor's proposed budget at this point is $971,000. There's some calculations below just to give you a sense of how much are we not receiving. If we really looked at what the intention was with the 45%, for example, and what we're actually receiving, we are really losing between $1.9 million up to, for next year, almost $1.6 million revenue that should be reimbursed but not received. I think the numbers above that show you if we were taxing it entirely what our tax revenue would be, which obviously if we're not receiving our 45%, we shouldn't anticipate the 100%. On the motor vehicle, first on that summary page shows you that the motor vehicle amount, if it was fully taxed, as you may recall, we were capped at the 32.46 last year. Ranging from about $7 million to next year. As we know, we had a large growth in motor vehicle at $9.7 million. The summary showing, of course, I'm going to probably torture you a little bit and looking at the next page just to get a sense of what that formula does. I promise I won't read all numbers, but to give you a highlight. And what happens with this motor vehicle transition grant is that the state receives a form called an M1, and that's what they're using to create the reimbursement. So what it does, for example, when I'm showing the 21-22 year, we didn't get a grant in 21-22. But what that does is they're using the 21-22 numbers, that being the assessed amount, and the grand list of that previous year. And that, if you look at the lower part of page 2, becomes the major source of what they're giving us the grant on. However, there's the added piece on our motor vehicle bills. Everything comes out on July 1st with your tax bill. We have a second round of tax bills called the motor vehicle supplemental that comes in January. That's not included in this report that's going to the state. They actually depend on the year prior. So not only are we behind 1 year in what we're receiving for the previous grant list, we're not getting credit for the supplemental. They're actually using a 2-year-old number. So a lot to take in. Maybe if you look at the numbers, you can get a sense of where it goes, but it's always 1 year of the current is behind, the supplemental's 2 years prior. What that does to us is, for example, and I'm going to flip back to the summary, we would expect the the reimbursement, for example, to be in 22-23, that we were going to be receiving about 500,000. Instead, we received 324. That left us behind 190,000. We are going to be experiencing the same thing for 23-24. We went back, we'd say in the transition that we should be probably losing revenue of about 938,000. Because the way the formula flows, we are ending up going into next year short about 430,000. So ideally, this would all catch up. Of course, the thing to keep in mind is if the goal is to phase out this source of revenue, we would have to be really diligent on making sure that this money that's in arrears, that's playing a 2 or 1 year catch-up, really does come to the town when it's phased out. So it's a lot to follow, but I think it's important to know that as we build our budget, that the sources of revenues between pilot not being funded at 45% and the structured tiered version of this motor vehicle transitional creates some shortages, so to speak, for the building of next year's budget.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mona, are the motor vehicle numbers still wonky because of what happened with the value of used cars during the pandemic? Is that an impact as well? And do we think that's going to normalize at some point?
Well, you will see that, I guess wonky is probably the best way to describe it, is where we do have the increase in the 23-24 on the basis of what the assessor's office is using. So if that does change in the future, you may see it, I guess, take a dip in the opposite direction.
So, real quick, just to kind of summarize, the motor vehicle cap situation is more of a timing difference, where the pilot situation is more of a question of whether we actually even get all the money. Is that?
That's exactly what we're looking at.
Just kind of.
Very good summary. We should have had you do that.
No. You need the detail to get to.
Thank you.
Okay, that's enough math. Let's I don't even know where we are.
You're done.
Oh, we're done? Okay. We're going to do the mayor's report. Okay, quickly. All right. So, I not to be all, getting back into ugliness again, but I just want to take a quick moment because I know everyone by now has seen the video of that brutal attack on a fellow resident who was attempting to prevent the theft of his car at his home during broad daylight. It's kind of this criminal activity that's just simply unconscionable, and I'm just so grateful that the victim who was transported to the hospital for his injuries was not severely injured. And I just want to reiterate what our police department has been saying on the news over and over again, is that if you see something, please call 911. And I really do appreciate, I think everyone does, that, you come upon these situations and emotions are running high, your adrenaline is running high, and you may want to get out there and you may want to take matters into your own hands, but please just stop and pause and call 911. Don't run on instinct. So, again, I think this is one of those life lessons, right? It's something that we don't typically see, and hopefully it will never, ever repeat itself here in Rocky Hill. But it's a reminder that, property is replaceable. Your life is not. Your family's lives are not. Your neighbors are not. So, again, call 911, and, hopefully we don't see this again. MDC is another issue that has been in the news lately, and you may be aware of some controversial activity that's been on the news this past week, too. There was an internal investigation was launched regarding the use and authorization of funds for purported legal expenses, costs, and fees. It seems like the chairman is being accused of misappropriating a very large sum of money, and some have actually asked him to resign. So I don't believe the commission is acting in that regard. I have not heard that But I have been in communication with our local commissioner, Commissioner Desai, on this matter as it's been unfolding. And it seems clear that based on what's transpired, what MDC really needs to do is have a better process of not only transparency, but of communication. And in particular, who is allowed to communicate with whom with respect to vendors, right? Is it the chairman who's allowed to do that? Does he have authority to do that? Is it the individual commissioners? Because I think some of that may have been going on. And then who can execute contracts? Because, you know, they're binding our taxpayer dollars, right? And that's really sort of infuriating. We don't want to see that happen. So for that purpose, I'm urging MDC, I'm sure all of us here would do that, to get a policy in place, right? I do think there is actually a bill out there that's looking to do some regulation of MDC. I don't know, Mimi, you may know more about that, but it is an issue, and so we're going to keep focused on that, and hopefully there's a resolution there. We've already talked about all the bills out there and testifying. We don't need to go into that. Some good news on our intermodal corridor plan. It took another step forward. It's still in the infancy or preliminary planning phase, but the town staff and I met with DOT to discuss some potential designs, and so that was wonderful. The UROC Awards we were going to do tonight, but there was just too much on the agenda, so we'll do that at our next town meeting. And then, are you going to talk about Sustainable CT coming?
I don't see it on the report.
Okay, so Sustainable CT has been visiting towns to talk about things like affordable housing, and they picked Rocky Hill to come this week, I believe. So, yeah. So they're going to be hosting their meeting here, so we're excited to have them. And that concludes my report. So we will move on to the town manager's report.
A quick rundown of some activities. Just a quick update on the Fair Rent Commission and how we have changed on our website how to access the Fair Rent Commission website, and also a new online fillable PDF form for the commission. We have a case manager assigned to the Fair Rent Commission who is doing intake as we speak. Several different applications and cases have been being compiled. They will not go to the Fair Rent Commission until all of the information, the data, proof of what's going on is in the file. And we are confident that when it gets to the Fair Rent Commission, all of the information is available for them to make a decision. We also have posted on the website legal assistance that tenants may access, attorneys, human service organizations, and the like. And also, that information would be easily accessed. As before, it was kind of difficult to wander through the website to try to get to the Fair Rent Commission. That's been all revised. Affordable housing plan. I had passed that out a few months ago. I would like to have Kim Ritchie come back, or the PIC Commission come back to the Town Council for a presentation on that, so the council is aware and fully aware of what is in it, and if you're comfortable enough at a later date to approve that fair rent plan. Fair housing plan. Same with Complete Streets. As you may recall, Kim Ritchie came before the commission, before the town council, and did a presentation on the whole policy. The Planning and Zoning Commission would like to have town council adopt the plan and support it. So maybe Kim can come back and refresh the commission. In the meantime, I know you have the plan in your electronically somewhere floating around in your computers, but I can send it out to you again. Both affordable housing and the Complete Streets, so you can review it. Memorial Day Parade Committee is still going strong. We finalized a parade route. Notifications to the veterans were mailed out over 500, I think 532 mailings. And the flyover has been arranged, so that's all set up, correct? Yeah, by Rita. If you don't know Rita, she works in the Park and Rec Department. Household hazardous waste, I'll skip. That's been thoroughly reviewed. Just a quick update on the small cities application. The Housing Authority is working closely with our consultant that we've hired, as well as with Eric Hanley, our treasurer, is doing some work on the actual, some of the financial end of that. He's helping us. He's actually helping us on a few other grant items. Public hearing is scheduled for May 15th for the Citizen Participation Plan at 6:30. That is required of the application. Peter Testa will be here to present that plan. It's required. The Housing Authority is working on an RFP for the construction contractor right now. They have hired an engineering architectural firm at their cost to put the plans together and then go out for an RFP to actually do the construction. That's a bit down the line right now. And we are in the process of updating all of the certifications and plans and policies. We did fair housing tonight. We have ADA, Section 504, affirmative action, Title VI, grievance procedures, and many others that will come down that we have to update as part of the application requirement. That ends my report.
Could I, just one question, Ray, that May 15th public hearing?
Yeah.
That's before the council?
Yes.
That night is budget approval as well.
Yeah. It will be the same process, 6:30.
Okay.
In the past two applications, they've probably been 15-minute public hearings, maybe 20 at the most.
Is there any chance would that be able to be done on like the 1st?
No.
May 1st meeting? No.
No. They're very strict as far as legal notices. We already legal noticed that it has to be so many days before, illegal notice twice. It's a Department of Housing and Small Cities requirement for that advertisement, unfortunately.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Could I actually? Sorry,
Oh, so sorry.
I didn't want to speak after Councilor Pankaj because you were so passionate about your experience, and I didn't want to look like I was competing with that or trying to minimize it. I just had a thought about how some actions that people could take in reference to the litter that was dropped by the white supremacists. No one wakes up, and I don't think many people wake up and they decide to become a white supremacist or a Nazi, and that gets thrown around a lot, but these people actually do describe themselves as such, and you should believe people when they tell you about that kind of thing. It's a path to radicalization, and we've been talking a lot about doing community meetings and talking to our neighbors and things like that are all very important and good, but there's also small steps that we can take in our own lives, and particularly if we are growing up with near or interacting with usually young white kids, but probably young teenagers. I mean, there's a path there that people start on. And a lot of times these things start as like just jokes. Just as a person who cares about your community, I think it's very important to audit what types of jokes and things we allow to be said near us and letting people know it's not cool. As people realize, you can pull them back in a little bit before they get to the point where they're doing, hate crimes in someone else's neighborhood. Just things to watch out for. If someone is around a teenager, if they have kids, what are they listening to on YouTube or podcasts? So much of this stuff happens in headphones inside our ears. We're not aware of it. If they're playing video games like Call of Duty, things that you have your headset on for 4 or 5 hours a night, who are they playing with? A lot of times it's older people who might be adults or maybe they're in their 20s, trying to plant seeds and water them in kids who are younger and don't really know better, don't have the experience, giving them reason to be angry. And then just in terms of other things we can do, I don't know if it came up, but if you see someone dropping the litters, the flyers, doing something like that in the neighborhood, call the police. They were very upfront about how they have collected some information. We do have a lot of cameras. It might be on somebody's Ring camera. Just don't put it out on social media so you're spreading their message, but give it to the authorities so they can follow up and catch the folks who are doing this and let them know it's not available or it's not allowed in our town. So just some thoughts there on other things that we could do to, in our own lives, small changes that hopefully might pull someone from going in a bad direction when there's still time to actually make an impact in their lives.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I do know that our commission is working on something as well. So hopefully we'll hear from them soon, some recommendations. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.